All right, welcome back to the Optimized Pharmacy Podcast, where we discuss strategies to grow your pharmacy, tools to accelerate that growth, and how top pharmacies are executing. And today we are we're so lucky to be entertained with the time and attention of Mr. Easton Bryant. As always, I'm joined with Logan Morris from Keystone Compounding Pharmacy. And as promised, we have brought on our first guest. And that first guest is the social media pharmacy sensation. All jokes aside, really good pharmacist out of Columbia, Kentucky. And we're going to talk a lot about cool things today. And super excited to have you on, Easton. So thanks for taking some time.
Yes, sir. I think I'm excited. First guest makes me a little nervous. Everybody, you talk about section, dude. Everybody else turned you down, so here I am, I guess.
Exactly. So thanks for at least being number one and breaking the ice. So if they don't know, and not to do like the classic recap, but if they don't know about you, I'm assuming most pharmacists already do. But tell us a little bit about your pharmacy, getting into how long you own the pharmacy, when you just get into your pharmacy background of how you got to 2022 November version of North Century Pharmacy Easton Bryant.
So we opened just over 8 years ago. We just had our 8-year anniversary. Literally put a pharmacy in a cornfield pretty much. We're surrounded by cornfields still. So small town population. The city limit is less than 5,000 people. We got lots of pharmacies here. So I knew from the get-go we were going to have our work cut out for us. And I found out pretty quickly, like, online presence was going to be important for us. So, I've been pretty active, relatively speaking, on social media for 8 years now. Just try to be pretty consistent, but 2022 has been a transformational year for sure for us.
Now, were you always an owner once you graduated out of pharmacy school, or did you kind of fill into the a retail space beforehand?
Oh yeah, I did some hard time. I pulled 4 years with the chain. I did 1 year with a really great independent owner, about 40 minutes up the road, and then we opened here in 2014, and actually bought my partners out in April this year. And this whole social media thing hit, ironically, in May of this year. It kind of blew up. So, kind of interesting timing.
So go ahead, Logan.
So what I was going to say is just when you made that jump, and this is probably more for individuals who are looking to make that jump from employee to employer, that owner mindset, what made you jump into that owner position?
I don't know.
Be polite about it.
Why not? It's a lot more fun to do things your way than have to do it someone else's way.
Oh, 100%.
It was really frustrating. And then, did you work for chains at all?
Oh, I did. I was a chain boy for about 8 years.
Yeah, it's frustrating because, there's so many great pharmacies that work for chains, and you build a relationship even if you're in a chain environment. There's people that look for you when they come into that chain for, but you're really limited. Not so much red tape, black tape, whatever, and what you can really do for them. And as Chris and I have said different times, independent pharmacies, you can pivot so quickly. You can be so nimble, and the saying goes, "Big ships turn slow." And just to be, you're held down so much by that chain environment. So, why not do your own way if you have the opportunity?
Yeah. So you've had the pharmacy for 8 years then. I guess, what does the progression look like from when you first opened it, services, things that you were offering to now in 2022? Because I'm assuming your role inside the pharmacy looks much different than what it did early on. So can you kind of talk about that progression, maybe some things that took you longer or slowed you down to get you to where you are now, like some mistakes and bumps that, man, if I would have done that right, maybe I could have been where I'm at now a little bit sooner.
Oh man, I think I had a business coach back in 2018 that said something that has stuck with me, obviously up until now. And I was telling her about like this new program I was excited about for new patients. I mean, we always had like this cookie cutter letter we would send out, and I was like, I hand signed them all. It was like, hey, thanks for visiting our pharmacy. I thought it was like such a personal touch, but then I was like, man, what if we gave all our new customers, our new patients, like a gift bag with all this stuff in it? And I was like so excited about it. And she was always like very encouraging. She could tell I was, had an innovative mindset. And she shot me down. She was like, Easton, you're thinking like a kindergartner. I need you to think like a PhD. I was like, that hurt. It was awesome too, because I tried to carry that with me ever since she told me that. I was like, okay, I need to be looking at things, from a big picture business standpoint, not these little medial tasks that like get me excited and get me through the day as far as, staying excited about pharmacy. And I don't know if that's really what you're looking for there, but that's one thing that jumps out to me as far as like how I used to think and how I think now.
So we were just thinking too small, overarching.
Yeah, like I was getting excited about the little things like that. Like, this is going to be great because our patients are going to feel so important because we're like not just giving them like a letter, we're giving them like this little bag, like it's over the top, like this is a grand thing. And she's like, you're missing the mark, man.
Yeah. And we said, going from thinking small, executing on smaller tasks, then I think, you said it best. You're more of a visionary now, right? It's very easy for Easton to think of big, broad, crazy concepts. It's probably, there's probably not something too big for you in terms of ideas or, things that you want to pursue. So how have you been able to, from a staff standpoint, from a team building standpoint, get to a place where you could even think about that stuff? Because I think that's part of the issue with independent pharmacy owners from an observing standpoint, right? I'm not one, is that they're always reacting to constant fires in their business. They never get the chance to look up and think about strategic planning and growth, et cetera. There's a lot of just reactionary behavior. And so how did you get to the point? How did you build the team? How did you coach the team to get to a point where you could even spend time thinking about, chess moves, if you will, for your business versus just responding to, those fires?
Yeah, I feel like I don't, kind of putting so much content out in the public. I don't think I talk about my staff enough. Everybody's kind of quick to use the word delegate. Like, oh, you got to delegate. You got to delegate. If you're an owner, you have to delegate. But like, I really think of it more so as like empowering them. I kind of, made it clear 2 or 3 years ago we were going through like a little growing pain phase, and I was like, I had to tell them like, don't come to me for little things. Like lean on your colleagues. Make sure that you've really tried instead of just, hey boss, how do you want me to do this? Like, don't come to me about everything. And I had to like let them know like, you are so intelligent and so capable. Like you don't need me for everything. And a lot of them had come from environments in the past where they hadn't been given that, that power. Maybe they've been delegated things, but they don't have the power to like make decisions. And, that made a big difference for sure once they really understood that I meant that when I said it.
Yeah, I think that's big. That happens actually just this week. I had to tell my team, like, stop coming to me about like these minor tasks that you can handle yourself, because it just eats up so much of your time. And it blocks your your thought process as you're trying to come up with something or a new process within the pharmacy. That I think they start to learn that they can just do it on their own. They're not being micromanaged as much.
Yeah, I mean, micromanage is such a terrible concept.
No,
So many times they just need to know, like, hey, I believe in you. You're very intelligent. You're more than capable of doing this. Like, this is your baby. This is your thing. So there are so many things that I used to, watch with a magnifying glass that I don't even touch anymore.
no, that makes
Ordering like they have full reign to purchase, whatever. Like, don't even ask me if you're going to buy something. Kind of what our goals are when it goes to purchasing and all that. if you're going to go back there and spend $5,000 on something and you know it makes sense for the business, like, you know how we know how we operate. Like, you don't have to ask me, you know. That might be a little extreme. I might not spend 5,000, but you know, it's not like you have to report every little purchase to me. Like, I don't want to hear about it.
It's time to change pharmacies, I think.
Yeah.
So you kind of fit into that employer role and took over, and then you kind of decided, when was the decision to really push social media?
I don't know. I would say I was pushing it from the beginning, you know. And like, if I really like break down the story of when we opened, it was pretty deflating, honestly, because I said, you know, we had to wait on these contracts to be, you know, finalized before we could officially open. So like, we had this like 2-month lag time. Like, people knew, like, people were asking, when are you going to open? When are you going to open? And there was plenty of time to talk about what we were going to be doing. Like, we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, like all these things that like people in our area weren't doing at the time. And people were like taking, you know, like not serious bets, but like chatting like, oh man, they're going to fill 200 something scripts the first day. Like, I have to go back and look, but I mean, I think we filled less than 10 prescriptions that first day.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, buddy. And I was like, nobody thought we were going to fill like 250 scripts on the first day, and we didn't fill 10. So I just knew from the get-go, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to make sure people notice us. And kind of back to our location, like, we're not in a ideal location whatsoever, but I wouldn't change it for the world now, the way things have changed. But get back to your question, you know, I knew that I had to, it was almost like I was like begging for attention, you know, like, hey, we're doing some really new stuff, great stuff. Like, you need to come check us out. Like, I felt like I was like, I don't know, it's not cool to be that kind of person to be like, hey, look over here, look at us, you know? But that's what I was doing. And, you know, it was definitely leaning into social media for that, more so than anybody else, you know, in our area for sure. And it's just evolved. You know, we obviously started out with Facebook, shortly after, got on Instagram, and then those have been our two main platforms until late last year, when we finally taught me into getting into TikTok. So I resisted that as long as I could. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's just like, I've always been pretty active on there, like I said, but I guess I should say too, I don't know how much we're going to get into like what's happened this year, but like up until May of this year, our cumulative following on all platforms was about 5,000 people. And that was actually really good, all things considered. I mean, that we had a fair percentage of folks that weren't even from here. So it was kind of neat. Like, I had a little taste of that, you know, like, oh, these people are interested in my little pharmacy here, and like literally have cornfields behind us, you know, in the middle of nowhere. These people are interested in us from across the country. So internet, man, right? That's like,
Oh yeah,
that's pretty cool.
but I think that brings up an important point, because anyone that's learning about maybe Easton Bryant now, and you know, we'll see you on stage at trade shows and stuff like that, but he might think like, you know, if they miss Siri or what have you, man, he went from May creating content to here we are 4, 5, 6 months later. Why can't I grow that quickly? Why can't I have that amount of, you know, success? But if I'm hearing you correctly, I mean, you were doing years of social content, practicing, getting better in front of video, getting better with creatives and graphics and what have you to get people's attention, right? And now you're finally on that upswing of like, I figured out how to create attention. I figured out how to showcase products, educate people in a creative, fun format to where people do engage with my content. Because there's a big push to get on social media naturally, but I think most people give up way too soon. Like, they give up too soon going to the gym or what have you before the results actually start to show.
Yeah. I think that's right. And, you know, I do think back to like a McKesson trade show, probably like I'll say probably like 2015, 2016. And anytime I go to a show like that and there's like something on marketing, like that's what I want to do, you know. And even going back, I know we've talked about a little bit of my history, but like, I wasn't going to be a pharmacist. You know, after I graduated high school, I didn't want to be undeclared. Like, I just didn't like the thought of being undeclared to go into college. So that summer or that spring, I declared marketing. So I was going to go into marketing after high school. With that, I mean, just as something not to be undeclared. And then over the summer, I started really digging in and thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, and that's when I changed. But anyway, I went to this session at McKesson, and this lady, she was some kind of like marketing expert or whatever, and she was like, you guys got to start doing video, like 1 minute video, 2 minute videos. And this, like I said, this was like 2015, 2016. And I was like, I listened to her. I was like, hey, that makes sense, So I started doing like 1 minute video clips years ago. I mean, that's crazy. That was probably 6 years ago. And I called them like NCP Info Minute or something like that. And I kind of winged it as far as production, but I think they look pretty good for me. But the engagement was it was awful. Engagement was terrible. I was spending lots of time trying to put these little videos together. And then, technology's come a long way even in the past, obviously 6 years. So I was doing that. I did like 5 of them, and I was like, okay, this is pretty stupid use of my time. So,
And now you're glad you didn't quit.
yeah, I did quit. But the difference was then, this is what I always tell people, like, people do business with people. I was showing my face a little bit, but I was like trying to come up with all this like, fancy imagery and stuff like that, illustrations and animations and all this kind of crazy stuff that people we know now don't really care all that much about. I've got an image saved on my computer. A lady wrote a check a few years ago. She'd been coming here forever. She wrote the check to East Side Pharmacy. So my name's Easton, North Century Pharmacy. I have no idea where she got East Side. And this just last winter, when he's been coming here for like 5 years, she wrote a check and she put Easton's. And she wrote the check out that way. But I mean, that's it's funny, but I mean, that's what people say, when they go to the counter, when they get done with their appointment, they're like, hey, send my prescription out to Logan. They don't care what the name of your pharmacy is. So it goes hand in hand with your presence online. Like people aren't going to stare at your logo every single day, like, and just drool over your logo. That's not how it works.
Yeah, they want that connection with that individual. And I think that's something that's great that what you have done. Because I've sifted through some of your TikToks and like seen some of the comments, and it's just like, they don't care necessarily, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they don't care who the pharmacy is. They just care about Easton's story and like what you're bringing to the table. I think you've done a really good job thus far. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but I've been saying that this for a long time. Like, my goal has always been to humanize the pharmacy. People don't do business with brick, mortar, steel, the stuff that your building's made of, your logo, whatever. Like, that's not why people do business with you. So I think to humanize, our industry is what should be our goal as independent pharmacies, for sure.
Makes sense.
We all do the same thing. I sell the thing with Benapro, you do.
Right.
We're not doing these. I mean, and we can all have a unique service mix for sure, but like, what makes them want to come get Licenibro from me instead? Which, by the way, I don't want to fill tons of Licenibro, but whatever.
That's hilarious. So, can you talk a little bit about, because I know it's still in its early stages, and we joke all the time about, really just starting to blossom in terms of where I think things will go. But can you talk about like what May to now has looked like in terms of like social following, opportunities that's opened up as a result? Kind of, I think that's a great segue into like the grid of what you're doing there.
Yeah. So back to what I said about May, we had about 5,000 cumulative followers. So 6 months ago, and that's across 3 platforms. And Instagram, I don't know about that one. It's a tough one to crack, but mostly from TikTok and Facebook now. But we're at almost 120,000 as of today. So 6 months, we went from 5,000 to 120,000, and it's honestly changed my career, because I don't have it in me to like not respond to people when they like genuinely respond to something that I've said or promoted, and they want information. Like, I just don't have it in me not to answer it. Like, it's impossible to like get to every comment, but I can say, like, to this day, over this past 6 months or whatever, I've there's not been one message, like a DM or one email that I've not responded to. And sometimes I feel a little crazy for doing that.
So say, if put in perspective, how many emails you think over the last 6 months? It could be thousands, right?
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I come into work at like 8 o'clock and then I look up and it's 12. I'm like, all I've been doing all morning is like answering people's stuff. I don't know. I mean, and as pharmacists, and especially online too, like you don't want to get out of your lane. You don't want to offer medical advice, especially when you don't know somebody's whole story or whatever. But so many of these people, like you can tell that they don't have, they haven't found somebody that they can talk to or that'll listen to them.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And I don't have, like I said, I feel guilty almost if I'm like, hey, sorry, I don't have time today. Message me back some other time. Maybe I'll get to you. I don't know. Like literally, like they don't have anybody that's like heard their story. I feel like so. I mean,
kind of like a pro athlete in a way, almost, where you're starting to get all these fans are coming up asking for signatures. The crowd's getting bigger. If you're just going to be a little bit harder to respond and sign every signature, or do you start having to turn them down away?
I don't know about that, but I mean, some of the emails are lengthy. Some of them are lengthy, and it's cool though because this whole mentality, this whole journey of having this pharmacy, I've always kind of put myself on a corner. Like, man, we have all these reasons, we have all these cards stacked against us. We have tons of competition. We got freaking mail order doing their thing. All these reasons that we should not succeed. So it's like made me like almost have a chip on my shoulder. And now that I feel like people realize like how much, and not just me, but my whole staff too, like how much we care and how much we like as independent pharmacies, like, most independent pharmacists anyway, how much we care about like people. It might sound cheesy, but for real, like it's cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think something that I can attest to is when you're messaging all those people, like you're building those connections, and it almost makes our job more fulfilling. I don't know how, at least for you, but there was a time where I was texting my patients every single, like the ones that I was working with one-on-one, I was texting them every single day. Like even on days that like Saturday, Sunday, I'd still shoot them a message. And it was super taxing. Granted, I had I think like 25 to 30 people that every day I was sending, and there was it wasn't just like, hey John, hope everything's doing well. It was like detailed, asking like, any questions that they had. It's a big burden. So I can't even imagine at the volume that you've got, how much time that kind of takes out of your hands.
Yeah. It's almost like there's no turning back now. It feels like it's 24/7, man. And I'm not sure like I should be proud of that necessarily, but my wife says I need some more hobbies for sure. But
Building a business is a pretty fun hobby.
yeah, it is. But it's, I do content, here and there about just in the state of independent pharmacy as well, and just advocating for independence everywhere. And it's been pretty cool to see how much people like want a good like hometown, personable pharmacy. Like people are starving for that. And then there's, I think back to, I took a trip to Colorado in May of this year, ended up randomly talking to this guy one afternoon, and we started talking about what he did. He was in marketing and sales actually, so we started talking a little bit, and he asked what I did, and I told him I had a pharmacy, and he was like, he didn't know what I was talking about. He was like, you mean that's still like you can have a pharmacy? And he had no idea. And I don't know what the stat is anymore, but I know not long ago there were more independents than Starbucks in the country. I don't know what the current tally is, but it's crazy that he didn't even realize that.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. I think a lot of times patients and people they just assume that we're almost like a fast food in a way, and then when they do get that like that actual connection where someone's like, "Well, how is your day?" and they say like, "Oh, it's been really crappy." Well, oh, tell me what happened. And they're like, "Oh, you actually care," and versus just usual, see you later. It's amazing. They're like, oh, you have great services. Like today's been crap. Like I gave you like bottom level service, and like just wait till you see like top level service. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel you on that point.
Yeah. The drive-through mentality, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to like gloss over those stuff either, but can you, because I think it's forgotten. I see a lot of similarities with how you react to your patients. I did go and visit you in Colombia. We had dinner. And obviously, I think you bumped into a couple of people that you knew at the restaurant, said hi, we're friendly, what have you. And it honestly reminded me a lot of my dad when he goes to the grocery stores. He's an independent pharmacist. Like everyone knows, I see you, how's it going? Yeah, whatever. And I feel like that part of being an independent pharmacy owner gets overlooked, where like if you aren't all in on your community and all in on your patients, like you can try to gimmick some marketing stuff, what have you, but like it sounds cheesy, but I feel like that's such a core staple. Like the genuine good people that care about their patients, that interact with their patients. My dad has the biggest, most outlandish 4th of July float every year, which sounds cheesy, but I really think it's contributed to their success, where people want to come to his pharmacy to support him and, talk to Steve and talk to their pharmacist, because they're so in the community. And it's a town of 12,000 people, but they're doing 20,000 scripts a month. You know what I mean? Like Walgreens across the street. Like you don't, for all your social media glory and all the cool things that you're doing, I think a core thing that makes you who you are is like you care. You're really involved with your patients and your community, at least outside perspective. I don't know if you want to shed light on that, but I think there's some pharmacies and communities that just don't go all in as much.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that, I mean, yeah, you're right. But then there's also the other side, like you better care about what you're doing, because if you're doing it yourself, like that's how you get paid too. It's how your family eats dinner, right? So you start, and that's one of the first videos I did way back in the spring that kind of got some traction, was I talked about my why. And people in independent business, period, like, they have to, there's no like somebody's going to come and like write a check to you if you're not paying the bills, it's on you. You have to perform, and you better care about what you're doing too. So there's that aspect as well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, sometimes there's a part of it, and maybe this is just me, but when I'm working with patients and I'm trying to help them and get them to feel better, sometimes the sales part, you almost feels like you're a salesman. At the end of the day, you're running a business, and so like you have to pay your employees, you have to pay all the insurance, to pay for the drugs, all these other things. How do you handle that kind of concept where you're creating all this media and not feeling too much like a salesman?
What do you mean exactly? Like selling stuff online, basically?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I say this like almost every day of my life. I use the phrase like, I don't want to sound like a salesman. Like I always preface that. And like I'm in a retail business, but I'm like constantly paranoid about sounding salesy or whatever you want to call it. But to me, like it's all about educating.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's all about. I mean, there's a lot of key words that jump out to me when I think about like what I want to put out into the world, like educate, value, joy, those things. And if people want to buy stuff from me, good. If they want to take my information and go to Walmart, try to find something comparable, go for it. I'm sure it's happened plenty of times.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and we just someone the other day that did that. They're like, great, I'm going to go to Costco, pick that up. Hey, no problem. I hope it works for me. They're not getting all the same quality, but at least they're listening to the advice and they understand why it's beneficial.
Yeah, it's crazy how nonchalant patients are, like, about, you're like going through their mail list or something, they're like, oh yeah, and then I take this and this and this from Walmart. And like, you got it like right there, right beside them as they're telling you. It's like, oh yeah, I get a big bottle of that at the dollar store. Like, okay. It's just, but I don't know, this kind of goes off on a different subject, I guess, but like, we've kind of done it to ourselves as independent pharmacists too. I mean, I feel like. For sure.
So with all the social media following, where that's obviously led to now, 120,000 plus people following you online, you're getting people from all over the country. There's obviously some stuff going on with, e-commerce sales, which maybe we can kind of get into it, supplements and what have you. But talk about what you've been able to start, build with the grid and kind of the reason behind that and just more about it.
Yeah, man. Glad you asked. Thank you for asking. No, I mean, in the beginning, especially, I guess back in May again, back when it started getting a little crazy, people started asking me about, hey, I'm really interested in that video you made about this. And if it was a prescription product, obviously it's something that I couldn't help them with. We are looking at getting licensed in Indiana pretty soon, but I'm not trying to be licensed in a lot of different states because of this, But if somebody was in a certain state and they were like, hey, I'm interested in this, and then I knew somebody there, I was doing all this connecting. So I'm like doing this introduction, basically setting the ball on the tee for these pharmacies. And a lot of them were friends of mine anyway, so I was glad to do it. But then started getting like just acquaintances and then doing all this legwork and just kind of working for free and then taking away time from my own business. So I just saw a big opportunity there to bring everybody up. And, I really do feel like it's like a win-win-win all the way around. So what I've been able to do, it's all like very organic and grassroots at this point, and I want it to stay that way as long as I keep it that way. But I'm connecting with other, like, who I consider to be top tier pharmacies in other states, and then I can like seamlessly refer those patients out. They want a great pharmacy to work with. I mean, it's flattering. They like, and a side note, like, I worked so hard to like, it took us a long time to grow here. Like, I'm glad it's turned out like it has, but like, it was a slow, like true growth over a few years to really get going, I feel like. And then like all of a sudden these people from all over the country are like, hey, I want to come to your pharmacy. I'm like, you're in freaking San Francisco or, wherever. It's like, I want to use your pharmacy. And then I had to like,
Could have used them on that opening day when you filled in.
yeah, it's like, man, you know how long I've been trying to like, where were you in 2014, 2015? Because like all these people are like, I want to use your pharmacy. I want to use your pharmacy. And they can't, because regulations of shipping prescriptions, obviously. But now what I've been able to do, so, you can't do business with me, but I know somebody that will take care of you that has a great pharmacy in the state. So it helps that pharmacy out, helps the patient out, helps me out. Everybody wins, everybody's happy. That's the concept anyway, and I'm really excited about the way it's going, for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it works. I think it's really smooth because I mean, even you've shared you kind of gave me a gimme patient one day, and I was super appreciative of that. Like, messaged me right away, and oh my gosh, you emailed me already. That's like, well, yeah, I consider you a patient now. Like, I'm going to take you as good of care as I can. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fantastic idea. I'm excited to see kind of where it goes. Obviously, I have my hands pinned from my owner, so as soon as I can get some ownership, I can make my own decisions. I'm sure I'll be jumping on the bandwagon there for sure.
Well, I was going to say, like, I always tell people, like, I would like to think it's like it was this creative, like, great idea I had, but I mean, it really felt like it was just out of necessity because it was already happening. Like, I was already like, because again, like, I just don't have it in me to just blow people off when they're like, hey, this is what I've been looking for. Like, I've never heard anybody talk about something like this. I think this could help me or help my husband, or my child, or whatever. I just don't have it in me to be like, sorry, you're in X state. I'm going to blow that person off. So I was already, it kind of happened on its own. Then I had to form an LLC, get contracts, and all that kind of stuff to make it all healthcare legit. But yeah, I worked on it for several months. We finally launched the RX Grid in September. So we're like 2.5 months in right now, or something like that.
So what states are you currently have represented this from?
Oh man, let's see if I can get them all. Delaware, Kansas, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama. Got 2 in Texas. And I've got conversations going to probably like 8 more right now.
Pennsylvania. I was listening for that one.
Pennsylvania, yeah, that's right. I think that's all of it. But yeah, like, and I got like a couple people, I got a handful of people get back to me this week, as well. So like my goal has been to grow it slow. Like I'm not trying to like cold call people, it's
Right.
basically like an invite only thing. And that's the way I want it to be. Like, this is not a company that I have to have, I could just start people off and not do this, but like, it's something I've become very passionate about. So, I want to be picky about who I work with, and I want to make sure that it's fun, as fun as it can be.
Yeah,
That's something like, something that's big to me is like having fun in pharmacy, because those two words do not go together, but that's been really important to me.
yeah. I think part of that is that exclusivity. Like you're able to make sure that those pharmacies are going to be fantastic for whoever wherever that patient ends up going. The last thing that you would want is that that pharmacy sucks. They don't care about the person that much. They just want to have that name recognition, and they tarnish kind of what you're doing. So I really like that. That's the stance you're taking.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like one of the first, when I was first kind of talking about this with some people back in the summer, I got approached by a pharmacy, and I wasn't real familiar with them. So I got online and looked up their Google reviews, and man, it was pretty harsh. So yeah, didn't
Well, it's a reflection of you, Joe. You should be picking.
yeah. But yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun this early on. Like, I'm excited to see where it goes for sure.
So all the social media following obviously has led to your ability to pass off leads and patients and what have you to other pharmacies. But you shed some light a little bit on, what you've been able to do from a supplement perspective, and not to bring it up in a sense, because I know the numbers to brag, but more so because I think it's a great example of a pharmacy that you looked at your landscape, you looked at how can North Century Pharmacy be successful. You were limited geographically, in terms of population, you're surrounded by cornfields. And so I feel like whether you stumbled across it, or maybe I'll give you some credit and it was strategic and it was smart, but you figured out that if I can gain attention and I can, reach more patients, outside of my just geographical, location, I can be successful as a pharmacy. And that's where, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of, success has come from for your pharmacy over the past year or so. So I guess kind of talk about that dynamic, because I think there's a lot of pharmacies maybe in your similar situation where there's not a ton of population. Their ceiling might be here. And without looking at some of these online aspects of ways that they can grow their pharmacy, there really isn't a path for them above a certain point.
Yeah, I tell pharmacies all the time, like, if you're, I don't know, I think it's kind of crazy too. Like, so many times owners are like, oh, I want to do this, but I can't, everybody wants to do it, but they just won't do it, and it's like, oh, I can never do that. Like, I can't believe you're doing that. Or it's like, you have to take action at some point. Nothing's going to happen until you take action. But also tell them, like, if you're going to commit and do it, you need to set up e-commerce first, or at the same time, in conjunction, because you never know. Like, we were doing a little bit of e-commerce because, like I said, we already had a little bit of following, like just randomly here and there, people in other states. So we were just like, trickling some stuff here and there on e-commerce in the past. So I spent hours and hours doing product write-ups and photos. Like, so many times I was like, what am I doing? And then I was so glad that I'd done that. So that'll be a big piece of advice, to pass on to other people. Like, if you're going to start doing content consistently, like, it's worth your time just to set up e-commerce. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult to do. Like, it's just a no-brainer to have it in place, just in case somebody in Wyoming sees your stuff and wants to buy something from you. Why not?
Yeah, I don't think
not PB and revenue.
yeah, and it's huge. I think out of our e-commerce, I think we've only had 2 orders owned from Michigan. Every other order has been out of state somewhere else, and it just, and you have to filter through some of the fraudulent orders. And now you're not a real person, or you're going to do a chargeback here in 30 days. But it blows my mind. It's like, I don't even know how did you find me? and you're just like, did you watch a TikTok? Did you just find me because my pharmacy turns out really well on the Google search? I think it's fascinating, and I'm sure you just see it all day. It's
My staff does not like me right now.
Let's just say, to give perspective, because I don't think too many pharmacies know what the potential upside could look like. And like, how many orders you get in a day? I don't know if we want to get into like revenue, what have you, but like, what's it look like going from May to where you are 6 months later? Because I don't think many pharmacies grasp the opportunity and how big the dietary supplement market is and how much of a chunk independents with good content, good marketing. I don't think you can just, toss up an e-commerce and then not be active online. But like what that has resulted in so far for your pharmacy, and kind of how you're thinking about what 2023 could maybe look like, because I think you could just be an example of, or someone that they can look up to. It's possible. Just this corny guy in a cornfield.
Yeah, I was gonna see if I could pull up like my Shopify feed today, but we've had a lot today. Let me see. What was your original question?
I don't know if you want to say specifics around numbers or revenue or what have you. I don't know how transparent you want to be about that, but shed some light, if you could, a little bit on the opportunity that could be, dietary supplements for a pharmacy.
Well, I'll say this as well, though. Like with our following now, which, like I said, it's around like 120K right now. I looked it up the other day to see how many were like even in our remotely close to us. Less than 0.1% of our followers are even in our region. So I know that when I'm talking to people into the camera, I'm talking to people not from up the road, So e-commerce, it just makes sense. Like if I'm going to put this much energy and time into creating content, and make no mistake about it, it takes a lot of energy and time to be this consistent with it. I need to be, at least able to deliver on their request if they're interested in what I'm talking about. So I put it this way, I guess, I don't know. I've learned to I think maybe life advice, you hear this a lot, is if your dreams aren't big enough to scare you, they're not big enough, right? So maybe at some point next year, maybe a year from now, I think it would be reasonable for us to see $100,000 at e-commerce revenue in a month.
That's insane.
Yeah, I think you definitely do it in 2023 for sure.
Absolutely.
No one marches on that or 50, 60%. It's a lot different than $100,000 in revenue prescriptions.
Yeah. No fees coming out. I mean, there's certain fees, but like no DR fees, ridiculous fees like that.
All right.
No audits coming back on you for PBMs, a lot of kind of stuff. So, yeah. See what happens.
Yeah. So, on that point, what does your day look like now? A little bit. I know you mentioned responding to emails. I'm sure content creation. Like, can you talk a little bit about your transition from more of that operator to the owner, what your day looks like now, and also your enjoyments or your feelings around how you spend your day now versus maybe how you used to spend your day on the bench? Because obviously the upside, we talked about revenue, what have you, but like, I think a lot of pharmacists would enjoy working on the business. Pharmacy owners would enjoy working on the business a lot more than they would behind the bench, but they never get the opportunity to get out from behind the bench. So kind of give them that, what it feels like on the other side a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of us three, and then probably everybody knows pharmacists who work the bench for 50 years, And I think once you get a taste of, and it is like, I think any true, community or independent pharmacy owner that really loves what they do, like, they enjoy being on the bench as far as conversating with their patients, people they've known for years, But when you get that taste of like what it feels like to work on the business more than you're working in it, and then see things happen, see successes with that, like, you just need a taste of it, in my opinion, And it's unfortunate that a lot of people never even try to put themselves in that position. And I think, I think there's a lot of, companies out there, consultants or whatever you want to call them, that, they say like, here's the metrics, like here's when you need this much staff or another pharmacist or whatever. Like, I mean, to be honest, like I could look at my prescription volume and be like, yeah, one pharmacist could handle that reasonably if they had to, for sure. But like, if that was the case and I was like, hey, we're not doing enough volume for me to hire another pharmacist, like I can't imagine where the business would be and all the things we've missed out on.
Yeah, I think it takes, and something that I see within my pharmacy is when we have two of our pharmacists there that are checking and doing all that, between the compounding and the retail side, to step out there and then kind of fill in the gaps. And I'm able to create content, able to meet with patients for hormone replacement therapy, any other meetings. And I can kind of look into other solutions to build the business up versus when you're kind of staffing and you're filling those or checking the scripts, you can't have that mental time to kind of think about, I should be doing this, or this would be a great time to create this piece of content, because you're just trying not to make a mistake and let something go out the door or harm somebody. So yeah, I think that's definitely huge on the staffing side. I would much rather pay for somebody to sit there and talk to a patient as a pharmacist and have overage than to be shorthanded and lose my time on some of that kind of stuff.
So to get to this point, I'm sure you probably consumed a lot of content, maybe read some books. I know you read books. If you could maybe, and I don't want to say shortcut because I think that's such an overused, misleading word, but what were some useful pieces of content, people that you've worked with, coaches, what have you, that have helped you, I don't know, refine and get to where you are now? Like a really good book, a really good, I don't know, podcast that you listen to, what have you, that you think if a pharmacy is looking to get into content and wants to kind of go the direction that you're going, it could be helpful.
So I think I actually shared this clip with you a while back, or just recently, because I went back and preparing for a talk that I'm doing in a couple of months. Back to the 1-minute videos that were like not that great, or engagement was terrible. I thought they were okay, but they were pretty like straightforward. It was called an info minute, so it was like information, right? Sometime around that same time, I listened to a podcast. Actually, I wrote it down the other day because I went back into my podcast library and found an episode. I'll tell you about it in a second. But I saw that I listened to it in May of 19. So it was How I Built This. You ever heard of that one? So can't remember.
I think that's How I Built This book. I think I have it.
Okay, so How About This?
Read it.
And I'm terrible with names sometimes, but the episode was with the Dollar Shave Club guy. And his story, like, is insane. And where they got traction was he made this video, and I'm sure like it was a YouTube commercial, basically. It didn't even go on TV. But he had that, it's like it's a minute and a half clip. It's a commercial, Dollar Shave Club. And like, it's just very like in your face, off the wall, like just funny. And I think that made an impression on me, like listening to his, and I'd seen the video before, maybe a long time ago. I think it came out like 2011 originally, but to hear him talk about it, how they did that, and like they made this video. It was funny. It was just captivating. And like that just, like their website shut down like the next day or the same day that video went live. The story's crazy, but hindsight, I don't remember that being like an aha moment for me. But then like that next year is when I bought the packaging machine, and I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of serious. Like I bought the machine so I can make a video called Pack That Thing Up.
That's an expensive video.
Yeah, for real. But I was like, man, I got, I signed for it at a trade show, got on the plane, and I was like, man, how am I going to promote this? This is a massive purchase, 6-figure purchase. I was like, what rounds of pack? Blah, blah. Like within a minute or two, I was like, pack that thing up. So, I went and did that video, and like it definitely turned some heads. But that was like I said, kind of hindsight looking at, that's the kind of stuff people want to see. Like when people are, and I mentioned earlier, like value and joy, like when people are using their thumb to do this, like, what are you going to give them that's worth them stopping to live, right?
Which is where I think a lot of pharmacists make the mistake, is they all want to create social media content. Some go on one spectrum, which is like they start telling dad jokes, like nothing related to pharmacy. And I think that's terrible. But on the other end of the spectrum is just super dull educational content. And it's like these people are scrolling, trying to detach from like a stressful day of work, stressful kids, family, finances, what have you. And then you hit them with this really boring, like, technical or not technical, pharmaceutical jargon of concepts and terminology and medications that they don't understand. And you think that they're going to engage with that content when the next one is like America's Funniest Home Video. Like, I think you've kind of found that nice blend of education but entertaining, because you're on platforms that have a ton of entertainment. And so you don't entertain in some capacity. You stick out like a sore thumb, and you're not what people are there for. If that makes sense.
3 E's, entertain, educate, or encourage. Pretty much sums it up. One of those three things, or maybe more than one at a video, but that's what you got to do. And a saying that stood out to me, I heard this on a podcast years ago as well. I got notes on my phone, man. Like, I listen to podcasts and I just make notes. So like, I have these massive notes on stuff that sticks out to me. But a guy said, when it comes to marketing, like, if you're not standing out, you might as well be invisible. And I think that's so true. And I tell pharmacists, like, man, if you are running a freaking radio ad saying that you are fast and friendly, like, whoop-de-doo, like, show me one pharmacy that's noise. Yeah, show me one pharmacy that has their doors open today that's not fast and friendly. Like, is that what you're going to do with your marketing? It's crazy. So,
I think that's good advice. Well, it is late, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. Hopefully, if you didn't hate it, this won't be your last time on the podcast, and we can talk about maybe some follow-up questions, what people want to hear more about. But for people that don't follow you, the people that do want to follow you, what does social media look like? Where's the best place to follow you? And then if it's a pharmacy owner that's interested in the grid, where's the best place to get in contact with you about that?
Yes, so at northcenturypharmacy.com. I think you'll find us everywhere. I'm not sure. I changed after we kind of blew up on TikTok. I changed our name. It's like Easton Farm D or something like that. But I don't know. How's it work? You got like the handle, then you got the name. I don't know.
Just search Easton Bryant Pharmacy, North Century Pharmacy.
Yeah, yeah. That's real. Well, there we go. And then the rxgrid.com is the site there. I have a landing page, but it's kind of silent. I should probably make that findable, where pharmacists can reach out. We can connect. But absolutely looking for high flyers. This is really corny, but I came up with this morning. Like, my mind never stops, unfortunately. But this morning I was thinking about, because I've had a lot of conversations this week with other pharmacy owners in different states, and like, I probably should have prepared this, but anyway. Like, I think about like working with other pharmacies, COGS. Okay. Collaborative.
With a G.
Yeah. COGS. Collaborative, optimistic, go-getters. That's what I want. That's.
And then like COGS on the wheel, kind of play on words.
So I want COGS, yeah. And I didn't even like think, I wasn't prepared to say that tonight, but I thought that this morning. I usually think about stuff a little bit before I put it out there, but I put it out there. That's what I want. I kept saying over and over to people, and I was like, what? I'm always saying collaborative, optimistic, go-getter. I don't buy into the doom and gloom, man. There's too much doom and gloom in pharmacy, and there's a lot of stuff for us to be negative about, but there's also lots of opportunities.
Well, the doom and gloom just doesn't fix the problem.
So there's always opportunities. Everybody's opportunities are a little different, but everybody has them. Sure.
Yeah. And outside of social media, I don't know if you got all 2023 planned, but I do know of one, so I'll ask the question. Where's maybe a trade show that they could find Easton Bryan at if they wanted to get, I think you've passed out some signatures, you've taken some photos. Where would be a good place to maybe stumble into Easton Bryan? Because you can't really fly into Columbia, Kentucky. So,
They have an airport.
do you at a trade show?
We got an airport. We were actually not too far from the airport.
Yeah, to like private jet into
That's right.
kind of airport, probably.
I'm speaking at PDS in February. I don't know what the rest of the year looks like, but doing that in February 2023, somewhere around the 16th-ish, I think is what that is. That Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then last question, 'cause it's popping into my head. If you started I don't know if this is a great final question, but I'm going to ask it. If you picked up your pharmacy and you had to move it somewhere else and start a pharmacy, what would be some things that you would prioritize right off the jump? And then how would you go about determining where you'd want to put it in? Where'd you want your pharmacy? Like a city to rural to, I'm gonna leave on a thinker.
Ooh. Well, I do think there's a sweet spot for like how successful. There's probably a trend. I'm sure there's data out there to support this, but like there's a sweet spot in the size of the town you're in. You know, I do think I've heard people say like in the big cities, like you kind of get lost in all the noise. It's hard to really thrive and have the number of personal relationships that you really need. You know, and that probably goes for provider relationships as well. So, I mean, probably not shocking. I would rather be more rural for sure. You know, we deliver to 6 counties routinely. So we deliver a lot. We have a lot of drive-through business. So we have very little foot traffic. Like we get busier and busier, and like foot traffic never really picks up. So it's kind of nice. Love interacting with patients at the same time, but it's nice you can get a lot of stuff done when you're not constantly just, you know, the door's not going off every 10 seconds. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then you said like what things to focus on. You got to have good provider relationships. Like that's the one thing I love. And you can probably attest to this, Logan, like compounding, like you end up being that funnel that providers go to, like, oh, I know Logan compounds, like when they get to that point to where, okay, their traditional, you know, options A and B didn't work. You know, what can Logan do about this? So like, that's something I love as much as anything. Is just kind of being that go-to for multiple providers in our area. Like I have, you know, I'm on routine texting basis with so many providers. So that's key. I mean, I think that's pretty stating the obvious, but leaning into those providers, letting them know what you can do, let them know that you can do it better than the chains. If I could,
Big emphasis be on compounding. You feel like every pharmacy should be doing it?
yeah, it's not as hard as people think it is. And I was in that boat too when we first opened. I was like, I had this narrative in my head that I've been told from some other people that didn't really know, obviously, but it was like you had to spend tens of thousands of dollars to even start. And actually, with some of the pharmacies that are in the RS grid now, they weren't compounding to start with, and I've sent them a list of like, here's a starter kit. Like it's not that hard, non-sterile. You know, I'll put it that way. You got sterile, Logan?
No, we don't. We used to, but that dropped off a couple of years before I joined the.
I mean, it takes obviously a level of commitment, and you have to be a lifelong learner. That's for sure. If you're going to compound, like you're not going to learn it all and just say, okay, I can do it all now. Like, you kind of interesting story that my staff pharmacist Cassie, who is unbelievable. I don't know what I'd do without her. She was here as a student, but several years ago, maybe I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and she never had been in like a compounding environment before that. So she came in as a 4th-year pharmacy student, and like, man, we saw the crazy stuff the month she was here. I think I was more aware of it because I was like showing her stuff, but it was like, you know, you get the most random questions and like riddles and, you know, whatever problems to solve as compounder. So, you know, I guess it's not for everybody, but if you want to set yourself apart, I think you got to.
Absolutely. And I think it also gives us some more freedom. as far as being able to say, hey, like, I really think this patient just needs X, Y, Z. Here you go, doc. And then they just are like, sure, let me just sign away and have it.
Yeah, and when they see it work, like, then
Cements that trust it. And then single question goes to, yeah.
But I'm here for it, man. I love when providers are asking us, like, hey, what can we do for this person? You know, you want to be, you know, back to those days of working in the chain stores, like having to do things this way, and telling people that they can come back tomorrow for their Z-Pack. You know, when you're in a position where providers are like wanting you to help treat patients, I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, it takes a little time to get there, but when you get there, it's obviously a competitive advantage, and it's a good place to be.
Mm.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Well, we're a little over an hour, so I appreciate you giving us every second. I'm sure we'll have you on at some point, but if you're listening, go check him out on all his social media. You'll see his content. You might see him on the podcast with short hair. You might see him on TikTok with a wig. So there might be a little disconnect there, but it's the same person. I promise you that.